everyone, I'm again back with a video onto the SQL portfolio project. Now this particular video will be more interesting than all the previous portfolio projects which I have covered onto the SQL, because into this particular video we'll be covering a lot of different advanced level concepts. So we'll be doing the data cleaning task, the data exploration task. So I have accumulated a lot of different problems from medium level to advanced level, and these kind of problems will help you to clear the interviews, and also you'll get an idea like what kind of problems you can expect into the real interviews. So it is important from that perspective. Also you can also consider this to be a practice set. So I have a set of problems, you can try your hands onto all of these different problems to solve all of them. Also you can add this particular project onto your portfolio, and that will add a lot of value to your resume as well. Thank you so much for showering your love and support to all the previous portfolio projects, and I believe this particular video will also be helpful into the same aspect as those videos were. So I would request you to please like this particular video and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't, to receive such kind of useful information, because into the future I'll be bringing much more different portfolio projects onto different topics onto SQL. Friends, onto the previous video onto the portfolio projects, I have been getting a lot of different frequently asked questions. So I'll be covering almost all the questions into my future videos. So do regularly check out my channel for all of those questions. So this particular video, I'll be exploring the data set of Zomato. So I've gathered a lot of different problems onto the data set. We'll be doing different data exploration task here onto all of these problems. So these problems, they range from medium level to advanced level of problems, and we'll be using different concepts to solve these problems. So I have taught all of these concepts into my advanced SQL playlist. So I would highly recommend you to check out all those videos into that particular playlist, and those videos are more than enough to clear your concepts. So all of these problems into this particular data set are quite different from each other. With each problem you will be moving a level up and learning different concepts, and you will be applying your concepts, and you will be forced to think to solve these kind of problems, because a lot of different kind of concepts are being applied into one single problem. To solve a problem you need to have all your concepts cleared. Friends, as we know, Zomato is a company where in the application we can just order our food whatever we want, and so we have a similar kind of data set into our sheet as well. We have the data around the customers and their order behavior and what type of food they are ordering. Also, you know, Zomato has this gold membership sign up, where the user, any user, let's say I'll be just be subscribing to the gold membership, and I'll be availing certain extra benefits, such as there is no delivery fee, I'll be getting extra items on my order, also I'll be availing certain extra discounts. So these are some of the advantage of the gold membership. So I also have included some dummy data sets onto the gold membership customers, and I've created multiple problems onto the same data set. So these will help you to cover a lot of different range of concepts. So friends, all the data set related to this video, all the files we are attaching into the description box of this particular video. So do check out the description box. I've attached all the files, and also don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And I give you the full authority to copy each and every line of this particular code, but I would request you to understand before copying or grabbing or writing this particular project into your resume. Understand each and every concept, each and every part, whatever I am doing into this particular video. It will be helpful for you only. So you can also from your end explore different data points onto the same data set. Also you can create Power BI dashboards that can add a lot of value to your resume as well, because you are showing your skills on SQL as onto the Power BI. So friends, let us quickly jump over to our data set and let us start exploring the Zomato data set. Friends, before starting the portfolio project, let us first of all understand the data set in a complete manner, and then we'll be looking forward onto which all points we'll be exploring the data, or we'll be calculating the different data points. We'll be seeing that. So the data which I've taken for this particular portfolio project is kind of similar to the Zomato data set. So for example, you can take the Zomato gold membership with paying a certain amount, and then you will be having certain benefits. So the customers, they avail these kind of benefits by taking the Zomato Premier membership or the gold membership. So similar to that, kind of data I have here. So all those customers who have taken the gold membership, they will be availing certain extra discounts or certain extra offers. So you can see onto my screen, I have four different data points or data sets. So these data sets are quite simple in nature. Into the very first data set, gold users underscore sign up. Into the very first column, I have the user ID, and into the second column, I have the gold sign up date. I'll be coming to each of the data set one by one. So the second data set, I have the sales data set. Into the very first column, I have the user ID. Into the second column, I have the created at, and into the product ID, like which is the product which was purchased by the particular user ID. Created at is basically the order date on which the order was placed by the particular customer for that particular product ID. For example, if I need to explain a certain row, user ID as 3 has purchased the product ID as 1 onto this particular date. So into all of these rows, it's just the same data regarding the orders or the product which was bought by the particular customer and onto which date the customer has bought that particular product. Into the third data set, you can see I have the product ID, I have the product name and the price of that particular product. So into the product ID, all the different product IDs are mentioned here. Into the product name are mentioned here, and the price of all of these different products are mentioned. The very last data set which I am having is the users. Into the very first column I have the user ID. Into the second column I have the sign up date. Now you will see I have two different data sets just for the users. It is very much clear that not all customers who have signed on Zomato will become a gold customer, will take a gold membership. Only those customers who are interested, they might take. So that is why we are having two different data sets here. So into one of these data sets, I have all the users information. Let's say I'm a customer, I've just signed up, so I'm having the customer ID as 1, and this my sign up date is mentioned here. Similarly, let's say I am taking a premium membership, so in that case I'll be counted into the gold users underscore sign up data set also, because I am a gold member now. So that is why my data would come up into this particular data set also. So we'll be solving around 10 to 15 different kind of metrics which will be useful for, let's say, Zomato for their business purpose. Let's say if I am into the strategy or the business team, I'll be tracking onto these 15 different metrics that can be useful for the business. So this is a simple data exploration onto the Zomato dataset here. I've imported all of these data sets into my SQL Server Management Studio. So it is very much useful for me to explore all of these different data points. So you can see here I have just imported exactly the same data set as I am having onto my Excel sheet. Let us start the data exploration journey, and you can also explore various data points from your end also. And please feel free to use each and every line of the code which I am writing here into your project for your resume, that can help you to break into the analytics journey. But I would request you to understand each and every query which I am writing here, so that this can be useful into solving multiple level of complex problems which you can encounter into your interviews. So friends, let us start with the very first metric, and which is what is the total amount each customer spent on Zomato. Now I'll be covering from a very basic level, from the very simple queries. I'll be covering multiple level of advanced level of concept into this particular portfolio project also. So this can be considered as a basic data exploration onto the Zomato dataset, and exploring certain data points which can be useful for the business purpose. So here we need to calculate what is the total amount each customer spent on Zomato. So this is very much simple. So for solving this particular problem, I'm concerned with two of the data sets. The very first data set is the sales. The second data set is the product. Now, why is that? So if you will see here, I am having the sales table here and I am having the product table here. Into both of these tables, I want to get the total amount which has been spent by each of the customer on Zomato. So first of all, you can see I'm having the amount column here, like the amount of each of the product, and I'm having the sales information here, like the user ID, which is the product the user has purchased. So I need to join first of all both of these tables. And what is the common column on which I'll be joining both of these tables? So that is the product ID. So let us do this very first step. So let us do a select a dot user ID comma a dot let's say product ID. comma b dot price from sales inner join product on a dot. So what is the common column on which we need to join both of these tables? So that is the product id column. Dot product id is equal to b dot product id. So sales is a, product is b. Let us execute this particular query, and we want to know what is the total amount of order which has been purchased by each of the customer. So into this particular query only we'll be using the group by function, and we'll be grouping by onto the basis of the user id. So I'll just remove this product id, group by user id a dot user id, and this should be sum over price, because we want to get the total amount which has been spent by each of the customer. That's it. Let us execute the query here. So you can see here user id has has spent some amount of rupees. Similarly, we are getting the data for each of the customer. So we should rename this column as total, let's say total amount spent. Said that all is required. I'll just simply execute the query. So you can see here I'm getting the desired data. What is the total amount which has been spent by the customers on Zomato, on their history. So this is the very first data point. Let us move to the second data point which we need to explore, and that is how many days each customer visited Zomato. So we need to calculate, let's say for customer ID as one, what are the distinct dates on which the customer visited Zomato website or purchased from Zomato. So we want to get this particular data. So we will be running our queries onto the sales table here, and for each user we need to calculate the distinct created date which is mentioned here. So let us do this. So we'll be using select user ID comma count of distinct created date from sales. Here also we need to group by onto the basis of the user ID column. Let us execute the query, and this query would give the total number of distinct days on which each of the customer has come onto the Zomato website to buy any product. So this is the solution for the problem number as 2. Let us rename this as distinct days. Let's execute the query again, and you can see the column has been renamed. Let's move ahead, and the third number problem here is, was the first product purchased by each of the customer. So for each of the customer we want to know like which is the first product which is being purchased by every customer who is signing up. Now this is a very important data point. For example, I'm running any e-commerce website, and for every customer who is joining onto my website, I want to know which is the very first product which is being purchased by each of the customer. And if I know like okay, 75% of the times a single product is being purchased by all the new users which are coming onto my website. Let's say I am having 3 different products here, product ID, but all the customers who are joining onto my website, their very first purchase is a certain product. This gives a simple indication that the customers are getting attracted to that particular product, and because of that they are joining our website and also buying the product. So this is a very good metric here, which, let's say Zomato, if they are interested into, they can look into this particular metric. So for any business this particular thing is very much essential for any case. So let us get this particular data. I want to know the very first product which is being purchased by each of the customer. Let us do this. We'll just do select star comma. We'll be using a rank function, and we'll be ranking over each of the customer purchases, and we'll be having the partition. So onto what basis the partitions they need to be created? They need to be created onto the basis of the user ID. So for example, I'll just copy paste this data here to help you explain this into much more better way. So for each of the user here, a partition would be created. For example, if I just filter out the data for the user ID as 1, so this is the data or the partition which would be created for the user ID as 1. Similarly, I'll just filter out the data for the user ID as 2. And the same thing I'll do for the user ID as 3. So all these partitions need to be created when I'm using the rank function, and within each of these partitions, I'll be ranking my purchases which have been done by each of the customer. So I need, or I'll be producing an extra column here which will be termed as rank, and for each of the columns or entries or rows for each of the partitions which have been created here, I'll be giving a rank based onto the dates. So this is my very first partition. This is my partition number as 2 for the customer ID as 2. And the last one is the partition for the customer ID as 3. Partition number as 3 is being created. So I'll be using the rank function to do this. And within each of the partitions, I'll be providing the rank onto the basis of this particular created at, and the very less state would be given the rank as 1. And later on we'll be just filtering out the data where the rank is equal to 1. So rank over partition by user ID order by, so on to what basis the rank needs to be provided. So the rank needs to be provided onto the basis of the created date, and this should be into the ascending order because the rank 1 should be provided to the less date, the very previous date. The rank 1 should be provided from as rank from sales. Provide this into a bracket. Before proceeding ahead, let us execute the code. So you can see here I'm getting product ID, rank, created date, and user ID. So for each users I'm getting a rank. So you can see here. Now after this I'll be just filtering out the data select star from this. Give this an alias where rank is equal to 1, and this will give me the data of the very first purchase which has been done by each of the customer. So you can see here the thing which I was telling upon is the product ID as 1. So this is the very first product which is bought by each of the customer who is joining Zomato. This is a simple indication that all the customers, they are being attracted to this particular product, and let's say the business needs to invest a lot into this particular product because a lot of different customers would be attracted into the future. So these are the simple metrics or the final conclusions which you can derive from the analysis which you are doing here. Data exploration portfolio project task is to generate simple analysis for all of these cases. So let us move to the fourth problem or the fourth data point which we need to solve. What is the most purchased item on the menu, and how many times was it purchased by all the customers? Now this is a different kind of problem. Earlier we needed to find what is the very first product which is being bought by the customer. Into this particular point we need to find what is the most purchased item onto the menu by any customer. Here we are not concerned by the customer who has purchased, customer ID as 1 has purchased, 2 has purchased. We're just concerned with the product which has been bought the most number of the time, and we'll be seeing like how many times each of the customers are buying that particular product which is bought a lot of many times. This will give us a lot of money indications for the business purpose, obviously. So let us write a query to find the product which has been bought the most. So here also I guess we'll be using the sales table only. First of all, I'll try to find the product which has been bought the most number of times. So I'll just use the product ID column and count on product ID column so that I get to know like how many times a certain product was bought into the history. So product ID comma count of product ID from sales. Obviously this is what is the output which is being generated. We have three different and distinct products into our data set. So 3 for three different products data would be generated. So we'll be grouping by onto the basis of the product ID. Let us order by also onto the basis of the count of product ID and into the descending order, because we are concerned with the product which was bought the most number of times into the history. So let us simply run this particular, execute this particular query. So you can see here product IDS2 was bought the most, the 7 number of times into the history. So this is calculated on an entire level. We are not calculating on the basis of the customer level. So you can see into the column 1, please don't get confused. So this is the product ID column. Product IDS2 was bought 7 number of times. Product IDS1 was bought 5 number of times. So this will give a simple indication like product ID1 was, though people are getting attracted and they are coming onto the website, they are buying this particular product ID as one. This is the very first purchase, but people, they are not interested in buying it regularly. They are instead shifting or finding product ID S2 as much more better to purchase for their purpose. So that is why, because you can see the customers are getting attracted to product ID S1, but they are much more interested and regularly they are buying the product ID S2 because that is the most bought product into the history of the Zomato purchase. As you can see here, the product ID S2 has been bought 7 number of times. So this is a very good signal for any business. We'll just rename this column as something as CNT, obviously. And from here, I want to get the product ID. So to get the product ID, I would have used the limit, but limit does not work somehow in the SSMS, so we need to use the top function. So you can see it is throwing an error here. So instead of limit, I will be using the top function, which works perfectly fine and does the same thing here into the SSMS. So I'll just write a top one product, and you can see here I'm getting the product. Now I'll be removing, to just get the product ID which was purchased the most number of times, I'll be removing this count from here. Select and execute. So you can see I'm getting the product ID. So this is the product which is being bought by the most by any customer. And the second point which I need to know is how many times was this particular product, which is the product ID S2, is being purchased by any customer. So the very first problem is sorted. So this particular problem, it had two parts. The very first part was to calculate or to find which is the most purchased item on the menu. So we have found that. So after this, I want to know how many times was this particular product is being purchased by any customer. So I'll just do a select star from sales again, where product ID is equal to this particular product ID. So I just want to filter out the data for the product ID as to, let us see this. I'll just execute the code. So you can see here I'm just getting the information for the product ID as 2. Now after this, I've gotten this particular thing. I'll be doing a user ID comma count of product ID, so that I get to know how many times each of the customer have bought this particular product. From sales, web product ID is this, and at the very last I'll be using the group by function, and I'll be grouping by on the basis of the user ID. Let us execute the code here. You can see here user ID as 1 has purchased the product ID as 2, which is the most purchased product into the history of Zomato, 3 number of times. Similarly, user ID as 2 has purchased the product only 1 number of time, and the user ID as 3 has purchased the product 3 number of times, which is the most purchased product, that is the product ID as 2. So I hope this particular problem is quite clear. And simultaneously, my aim is also to explain why we are calculating these data points, how we can use them. So obviously, after this particular data which is being generated, you can create beautiful dashboards onto the results which are being generated here and present into your portfolio project. It can add a lot of value into your resume as well, and it can help you to crack interviews. Also, these portfolio project videos can be taken into account to learn the different SQL concept, to solve different problems. So these kind of different problems, they are being asked into the interview. So I get a question a lot of many times, like send me different kind of problems which are asked into the interviews. So similar to this kind of problems which I'm solving right now, are generally asked into the analytics interviews. So friends, let us move forward to the next question. Which item was the most popular for each of the customer? So we want to know, for example, for each of the customer IDs 1, 2 and 3, which is the favorite product for each of the customer in other terms, because most popular product is simply the product which the customer is buying a lot of many times. So the customer is buying a lot of many times, that simply means that the product is favorite. So we want to simply calculate or want to know which is the product which is being purchased by each of the customers a lot of many times. So I'll just do a select star from sales just to look at the columns. This problem is also quite simple, and you would know if you think like why this particular metric is very essential for any business to track. Knowing about all the customers is very important, so that is why we need to calculate this particular data point. I'll just write here select user ID for each of the product. Like I want to know for each customer, for each product, how many times the customer has bought that particular product. So we need to mention this here. So user ID comma product ID comma count of the product ID. I need to mention this from sales, and the last I need to group by onto the basis of the user ID and also onto the basis of the product ID. So this is my final query which will give me the answer which item was the most popular for each of the customer. So you can see here I am getting, for example, user ID as 1 has only purchased the product ID as 1 2 number of times. So we are getting this information, but what is the final thing which we required? We require which item was the most popular for each of the customers. We are getting a lot of many different rows. So I'll just put this into a sub query and I'll use this to provide a rank. I'll be using the same concept. So for each of the partitions which will be created, I'll be giving a rank. So I'll be creating a partition onto the basis of the user ID. I'll be ordering onto the basis of the count column, definitely onto a descending order, because the product which is being bought most number of times is being loved by the specific customer, and that is the most popular product for that particular customer. So I'll be mentioning this into a descending order. I'll be renaming this as rank from this particular data set. I'll just rerun the query. I'll just execute the query. Okay, this should be by. Just executing. You can see here we have given a rank for each of the data point which is mentioned here, and after this I just want to filter out the rank 1 because I want to know which is the most popular product for each of my customers. So I'll be ranking or filtering out where rank is equal to 1. So this data point I need. I'll just execute the code finally. So you can see here I am getting the value. So user ID as 1, his favorite product is 2, user ID is 2, favorite product is product ID is 3, and the user ID is 3, the favorite product of user ID is 3 is 2. So you can see here I am getting all of these different data points. So by this particular data point I am getting to know which is the specific product which is being liked by each of my customer. So I can find a lot of many different things from this. So for, let's say, in a particular state or any particular region, a product is being liked by almost all the customers. This gives a very good signal about the product or our customers that they are liking that particular product. So we can definitely run offers, give different offers for that particular product so that our sales get increased. So friends, these are the different conclusions which we can derive from these different metrics. So friends, this was the part 1 of the SQL portfolio project. I'll be releasing the part 2 of this project next week, or I'll be attaching the link into the description box of this video. So if you have any queries or suggestions, any doubts, you can comment them down into the comment box of this video. I hope you have liked this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button Meet you in the part 2. Till then, keep practicing. Bye.